the application of the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix. One of the applications of an inverse of a matrix is in solving systems of equations. So we have here a problem where we're asked to identify how many adults and how many children entered the show if the total amount collected was 3,610 Omani Rials. And the total number of people who entered was 401. OMR actually is Omani Rials. This is the currency of Oman. All right, so the entrance fee for a competition show was either 10 Rials or 5 Rials, and adults paid 10 Omani Rials and children paid 5 Omani Rials. The first step is to define the variables. Right, so we let X equals number of adults. And Y equals number of children. So adults are people, children are people. Now adults paid 10 Rials, so this will be 10 here, and children paid 5 Omani Rials. Okay, so this is the first step, defining the variables. The second step is to create the system of equations. When we say system of equations, it is a set of two or more equations solved simultaneously. When we say simultaneously, the value of X in the first equation and the value of X in the second equation are equal. Okay, so same with Y. Now, we know that the total number of people who entered the show was 401. So the first equation is X plus Y equals 401. So this is our equation 1. So the first equation talks about number of people. X is number of adults, that's X, and number of children, that is Y, is equal to 401 people. Now let's talk about the amount collected. The total amount collected was 3,610. So adults paid 10 Rials. That would mean that our first term is 10x. We multiply 10 by the number of adults. And the second term will be 5 times y. That is 5y. That's the total amount collected for children. And the total amount collected for adults, that is 10x. Okay? Multiply the amount by the number of people. So common sense would tell us that the second equation is 10x plus 5y equals whatever is the total amount collected, which is 3610. This is our equation 2, and this talks about the amount collected. We have to be very consistent in terms of these terms and in terms of these values. One silly mistake here will create all answers wrong. Okay? I mean, will lead to wrong answers. The next step is to identify our matrices. So we have to find matrix A and matrix B. Now, matrix B is very simple. These are the values after the equal signs. So the first value after the equal sign is 401. And the second one is 3,610. Now, for matrix A, you have to be careful here. These are the numbers before the variables. We call this as the numerical coefficients. So here we don't have a number. It means the value is 1. So this is 1x plus 1y equals 401. So we're going to write here 1 and 1. For the second equation, it's 10 and 5. So these are our matrices because the instruction is to solve the problem using a matrix inverse. That is why we have to identify our matrices as the third step. Well, there are many ways to solve this problem, of course. You can use elimination methods, substitution, and many other methods. We are using this method here because usually the purpose is to use a software later to solve the problem. And we're talking about, a problem that involves mathematics for IT students. And that is why here the instruction is to solve the problem using a matrix inverse. Okay, so the next step, of course, is to find the determinant of A. So I have discussed this in the first video, particularly about the inverse of a 2x2 matrix. All right, let me fix that. Okay, so of course we are not going to find the inverse of B because B is not a square matrix. We're going to find the inverse of A. So the first step is to find the determinant of A. That is the left diagonal, 1 times 5 minus 1 times 10. Please take note that this is always minus. So 1 times 5, the elements of the left diagonal or main diagonal, and 10 times 1 or 1 times 10, these are the elements of the right diagonal. So our determinant of A is equal to, of course, -5. Then we're going to use the formula using the elements, of course. A sub 1, 1, or 11 is 1. Then A sub 1, 2 is 1 as well. Then A sub 21 is 10. And A sub 22 is equal to 5. All right, A11 means row 1, column 1. That's 1. A12 is row 1, column 2. A21 is row 2, column 1. And A sub 22 is row 2, column 2. The next is the formula, that is 1 over determinant times the values. So we have to swap 22 and 11. 21 and 12 will be the same, but we have to get the opposite signs. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is to replace determinant by -5. That's the determinant of A, multiply. We have to swap our elements of the main diagonal, 1 and 5. That will become 5 and 1. Okay, and 10 and 1 will be in the same position, but we have to change the signs. So we have positive 10, it becomes -10. Positive 1 becomes -1. So we multiply the fraction on the left 1 by 1 to the elements inside. So 1 over -5 times 5, that is, of course, -1. And 1 over -5 times -1 is positive 1 over 5. And 1 over -5 times -10, that will be positive 2. And 1 over -5 times 1 is -1 over 5. Okay, so this is the inverse of our matrix A. Now the next step is to find the values of X and Y. Basically, to find the value, the formula is the inverse times the B. Now, our B contains only one column, as always. Okay? For a system of equations, our matrix B will have only one column. So when we multiply our inverse by this, since there is only one column, we're going to multiply the row of the inverse, the first row, by the column to get the value of x. To get the value of y, we multiply the second row by this column. Okay, we don't need to go to the formalities of multiplication because, as I said, we have only one column in matrix B. Okay, so our x is basically the first row times our B. So -1 times 401 plus 1/5 times 3610. Okay, and our y is equal to 2 second row times 401 and -1/5 times 3610. Okay, so using your calculator or manually, the value of x is 321. It means that 321 adults enter the show and 80 for y. So 321 plus 80 is equal to 401, which is correct because the total number of people actually is 401. So please check the values in your calculator. The value of x is 321, number of adults, and the value of y is equal to 80. And you can plug in the values in the first equation is equal to 401. And you can also plug in the values of x and y in second equation, 10x plus 5y, that is equal to 3,610. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching.